Welcome to Politica Show on Lions Wire. Today is October 18th, 2024, and our permanent guest at this point, as always, a renowned political scientist, Ilya Levkov. Ilya, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me and sharing our stories with your viewers.
Thank you, Ilya. Ilya, we had a very eventful week, both in Israel and in US. Very consequential. Sinwar has been taken out, the last, I think, head of Hamas remaining, and very eventful week in US politics. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
So let's start with, I guess, Israel. Any comments on your part?
Comments are simple, plain, and surprising. It is because actually you said it's incompatible with one word that you used in the introduction, that Sinwar was taken out. When you say it's initiative, it's active, it's planning, it's an operation. However, it was the opposite. Nobody was planning. The soldiers were training themselves. There are no commandos, no experience, big experience. They actually were acquiring a certain technique of fighting in urban environment. And then when what happened there, it's by now everybody knows. It's they saw three terrorists are running from one house to another. Then they split. One split and went to one house, and from that house he went to another house. That was something non-kosher, and they describe in details what happened with him and not the others. And that unknown terrorist ran into the house. What happened in the house is the Israelis sent a mini drone, that went through the window, and that man was sitting there on a chair, seems wounded, and tried with a piece of wood to, to hit the drone. It was very interesting.
So the drone flew into the apartment?
Yeah, it's all the Israelis have mini drones that can enter any windows and send the pictures. And they saw it as he picked up a piece of wood, he sits in a semi-bombed out apartment, and was not clear who or what. But they saw it that he picked up a piece of wood and tried to knock down the drone. So the drone didn't go into fighting with him, just flew away and sent photos. And some of the photos I will send you to be used in our program. Now they continue to shoot, and it seems to me that he was killed. Now, what is unusual is that the house, they were shooting with rifles, not with with a special anti-tank or bazooka, and suddenly out of nowhere this house collapsed, and therefore he was wounded, or maybe not killed completely, but he was under the
rubble,
those walls that collapsed upon him. It's a very, very biblical, because that's what happened to Samson, if you recall, when his hair grew up and he asked, and his eyes were not, that is, they destroyed his eyes, he couldn't see, and somebody please bring me to the pillars of the temple of the Palestinians. And thereafter he with both hands, bare hands, moved those pillars and saying, let my soul be killed together with the Palestinians. But this is the biblical destruction. What's interesting is that they didn't know who this person was. They only thereafter, hours after, they got to him, they looked at him. There was something when the drone was in that room, he tried to cover his face with a kafir. He understood everything that, in a way that they caught him, but he still didn't work. Seems to me he hoped that they
They would not
might,
identify him.
yes, and they might not kill him. And in this particular case, indeed, he was killed. Together with, on him, he had 40,000 shekels, you know, For sure, there was also bills of 100 shekels because I saw piles of Palestinians, Hamas money, and there is 100 shekels, as you know. He, Leah Goldberg, which was my professor and the author of the books that I translated from Hebrew into Russian, and so there was a kind of a fun, kind of macabre, Here they hide from Israelis, but they have the money, the Israeli money, which they could have traded. There was also a passport on a different name. And all this was about a mile and a half from the exit of the tunnel to the Egyptian side, the Philadelphia, you see. The Philadelphia, which United States prohibited Israelis to get to this part of the Gaza. And here we come to the second stage. Second stage was identification. That is, it was quite recognizable, but to have a DNA test and the test of the teeth required about 18 hours, and only today, Israeli morning, it was 100% sure that indeed
It was
this is
Sinwar.
at Sinwar. And yeah, the Israelis were confused, the soldiers were confused, When they discovered him, they said it must be him because he has a clear kind of recognizable, very recognizable face, and therefore this kind of a G. And the house collapsed. He said it could have been the opposite. It could have been that we would have entered the house and this would collapse on us and he would survive and escape. So the point here is that it was not a planned operation. Why is it important? And this why actually I was extremely, extremely, extremely upset. Let me find uh, the word. I was upset with a statement by Kamala Harris. Why? I listened to her brief statement. I can say that Israel, she started kind of, with a blessing. Israel is an important ally and they have the right to defend themselves, and any terrorism must be stopped, and therefore they hope that Israel now will move towards some stage of negotiation. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
And more than that, and she's hoped that the Hamas people will be able to live in dignity and have their sovereignty. We are back to this dead dream that there will be a sovereignty of independent
Did she say
Palestinian state, and therefore everything will come to peaceful. That is, in this point, after the massacre, after she said, even stating it, the largest so-called massacre of Jews since World War II, she still holds for this dream. The question is now simply, she just had her appearance at the Fox network, when it was a catastrophe. I hope I don't want to go into this, but she came late, and her advisors actually interrupted the interview with Brad Bear because they saw that it moves nowhere. So, in order to gather all her kind of efforts to correct the course with which she gave not a single point, that is, she, for the first time, she had a chance to appeal to independence. You know, she wouldn't change the mind of those who decided to vote for Trump. So it was for independent. So in order to be on independent, you have to prepare. You have to put something on a hook that they will accept it. Let's say I was inexperienced. It was my first government, federal government. I was more, to say, under learning, studying all in, because she, on one hand, wanted to show that she had experience. On the other hand, that she was inexperienced and not responsible for the policies of Biden. Yeah, I agree. Let's say nobody should have asked, "Did you have a clash with President Biden on some issue?" You see, but nobody asked her in general all those 3 months, and specifically yesterday when she came out with the explanation of her own. I tried to find the complete text printed, even on the site of the White House. I didn't find it complete. The audio was also cut. That is there where she says that the Palestinians should have their own state. She used the word sovereignty. Again, who knows what is in this particular context? What is a sovereignty?
Well,
Because
sovereignty normally means having your own state, independent state with your own country.
listen, it's for the top elite that they know what is a sovereignty. The normal people don't comprehend precisely what is a sovereignty. It comes with sovereign. It was once upon a time the king and all that stuff. And now we are in a democracy, republican. So, in any case, she sneaked it in. She didn't use. They will have a Palestinian state, as she said on several occasions before. Moreover, she also stated that there was some cooperation. She started with this that for the recent few months, United States forces planned an operation to capture that Sinwar together with Israeli forces. And then she jumped that he was killed. But the first part was false and irrelevant, because none of the people that were there, Israeli soldiers, there were no they had no part in the in this planned operation. So why was it? You see, it became foggy. It became unclear, or foggy, and questionable. And I am amazed that, as a political analyst, I was simply uh, kind of surprised. Why doesn't she have those political antennas and say the proper thing for her own sake? You understand? No, I'm not kind of pushing her, but in general, why is she on false to be on a flat floor? And this was a surprise to me. The other surprise, to a lesser degree, was President Biden, who flew to Berlin. And for Air Force One, he congratulated Netanyahu and did not say sovereignty or second state, as he said it on October 7 and 8 and many times thereafter. That, no, but more than that, the entire 90% of friction between the United States and Israel in this last year after October 7th was because United States dictated when do you have to begin, and they demanded from Israel that they will wait at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks after Israel entered Gaza after the October 7th massacre. Then they said you can occupy only part. Then the Israel was moving to other part. They said, no, you have to move the population and that. Then they said, no, we cannot give you those bombs because you're trying to use it on the urban areas and you are not securing the people. So Israel did enormous effort to inform each house by calling them, because Israel has all the telephone numbers of Palestinians in Gaza, and also dropping flyers. Please move from that area because we are going tomorrow to bomb it and to destroy the hold. And this where later on, as we realized, it was a hospital. So assumingly they blame Israel, that Israel forbid is a criminal and they tried to destroy the hospital. As you remember, there was even another case of a hospital where their rockets was flown by Hamas, but failed on the hospital itself.
Yeah, it didn't start, it didn't fly, it blew up at the time when they were trying to ignite it.
So and the schools, all the how many schools were shown that had, and houses which had in a kids' room all the ammunition under their mattresses, etc. So uh, yet for some reason it was presented that the Israelis are violating their war criminals and they should be sued by the international bodies, be it in Hague or in some other places. Mostly, I have very little to add the information besides the photos which I will provide you. They were the one thing clear is what to do. They barely began. The issue in Israel, I just checked half an hour ago, will there be an offer of Hamas to trade the body of Sinwar for exchange for the Israeli
Hostages.
hostages, life and death? Because let's remember, Sinwar was released from the Israeli prison where he spent 22 years. He studied Hebrew, studied the Israeli society, and therefore he thought that he is an expert, and he really directed the conflict. Would be a conflict between the certain parties, certain sectors of Israeli society. As you remember, all those strikes, weekly strikes at the Kaplan Street, and they were called the Kaplanists. So he was, in a way, one of the called most sophisticated, and he was exchanged after 22 years when over 1,000 Palestinian terrorists were exchanged for one soldier,
Shalit.
Shalit, as you remember. So, in this particular case, I was interesting what Israel government would do. Would they, for sure, they will exchange his body for the rest of for the same deal. Just now, he is on the other side, He is the one said, who got the freedom and turned several years at freedom into terrorist activities. On the other hand, the Israelis don't want him to be buried somewhere and becomes a symbol, because this would be the symbol. And then, of course, all those are variations that I heard from the Israeli sources. Yes, no, he can be sued under the law that was written for Eichmann, Nazis and their collaborators. You see. So in a way, it's even more than Nazi and collaborators he was, and therefore he can be a verdict of death can be applied to him. Then the question was, it continues, to what he will be found guilty for sure. After that, he will be hanged and burned like Eichmann. But God forbid, don't pollute the Mediterranean Sea with burnt.
Terrorist's body.
Burned, yeah. Yes. So therefore, now we have to find that toilet of those soldiers and drop all the remnants of his after burning him and flush the water.
Worth
So
mentioning, Ilya, worth mentioning, Sinwar had brain cancer about 5, 7 years ago, I believe.
say it again. I didn't.
Sinwar had brain cancer about five or
Oh
seven
yeah,
years ago, and it
more.
was more than that.
Yeah, because it was before he released.
So he was in prison at that time.
Yeah, he was a prisoner, sure.
Okay, and Israel, he was taken to Jerusalem hospital, I think,
I,
Sorotskin.
I'm not sure if Jerusalem, but that was a brain cancer, and it was a very, very complicated and costly operation. And he was saved, and this what Israel got for their best intention. So, in
Right.
general, I would say that this really covers most of its thing, and as I stated, the difference in the remarks was amazing. They are still having, that is, she has in her mind, she has an idea. On one hand, they said that the US troops in this region and their plans, if somebody will indeed try to shoot them, as Houthis are doing, as even Hezbollah was shooting, as Iran was doing. That is, United States will punish them. That is military. It would be a military reply, merciless military reply. That is, the United States at this point says we have some plans for the Middle East, and he who objects to this will be punished. So United States uh, keeps its right to itself. Somebody might question, unless they are allies, in having a cooperative action, as it was with several other states in April. So, but why, by on the same scale, Israel shouldn't have the same status for their plans? And their plans for sure do not include the building of a Palestinian state, which is obvious, devoted to one and only goal: destroy the Jewish state. They don't need another state, as they didn't erect the state on the Gaza and West Bank between 48 and 67. They could. It was under the Arab control, and yet they did not. Yeah, on one hand, where I think I told our listeners that Gaza became under the Egyptian control after 48, and the West Bank, so called, was occupied by Jordans. And none of them granted them a separate state.
Right. These were occupied territories, just not by the Jews. It was the Arabs who occupied them. But in
No, there
1940,
were no Jews. Excuse me. Neither in Gaza nor on the West Bank there were Jewish settlements before 1967. There was
yeah,
not
yes,
and more than that, the absorption of the West Bank by Jordan was accepted by but one state, no, two states only, uh, and this is Great Britain and Pakistan. That is, they in a way accepted that this territory should become, until 67, uh,
should become Jordanian.
Jordanian territory.
Ilya, in 1948, when there was, well, when proclamation was made and the state of Israel was announced, on Palestinian territories, on the rest of Palestinian mandate, which was supposed to become Palestinian state, was there any body that could that ruled the territory and that could actually make decisions on behalf of the people?
Not None until Yuri Andropov created the notion of the Palestinian Liberation Movement, made a stamp assigned to run this PLO with all their groupings to East Germany, which was run by another outfit, the chief of counterintelligence of Romania, by name General Patsepa.
Yeah.
His book, extremely interesting. Whoever, the book was published in English, of course. I met him. I wanted to publish this book, and finally, somehow, something happened. Probably shortage of funds, because the book is extremely important and truly, truly shows how the PLO was receiving money, support every week from. It was flying. He was in charge of flying, supporting those Palestinians in Lebanon primarily, and the book is called The Red Horizon. Do find the book, read it. I'm sure you can find now at all the discount places.
And
The book.
basically, through that effort, through Romanian participation of Romanian Secret Service, the identity of Palestinian Arab was created. Is that not the case?
Correct. This and the training, they had a training, but they didn't have a training in Romania. They had a training in East Germany.
Under Stasi's control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that is really, we should keep our
Yeah.
topic focused. I think this at this point summarizes. But the two, it's unbelievable to what arrogance on part primarily, I was surprised, arrogance and stupidity of Kamala Harris. She didn't have those. Now she has extra troubles. Not such. It makes me sad, But the absence of rationalization, what she just had the first ever exposure to independence on the Fox News, and it fell through once again because she was actually focusing to hate Trump. She should not have mentioned Trump even once. And all the things she said, it's not we, it's not us, it's all what bad was in their administration. It was due to Trump. And this was, of course, fell on deaf ears because people are rather educated and understand what can you blame on Trump and where's your responsibility. She could have said once at least, there was something mentioning of a dead person, and she could have said, yes, she said it in this interview, but it was such a, she didn't say, I regret that it happened. She did not regret. She says, I'm pain. Remember Bill Clinton, I feel your pain.
Yeah.
It was something in this realm. So, gimmick and all that. I will send you the still photos from that drone. Okay?
Yes, please.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Ilya. Thanks a lot. And let's meet next week. Hopefully, we'll have a lot to cover.
For sure.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.